But Iran says it has stopped crude exports to France and the UK, preempting the EU ban on Iranian oil that's scheduled to start in July. Well, Iran says it will give its oil to new customers instead. And Lara Setrakian is in Dubai to break down the implications for us. And, well, Lara, how much oil are we actually talking about here?
Well, Caroline, before this latest round of sanctions, the EU as a whole was Iran's second biggest oil client after China. Together, EU nations bought 18% of Iran's exports of crude and condensates, around 450,000 barrels per day in the first half of 2011. Within that, France and the UK were a relatively small sliver. France bought 2% of Iran's shipments, while the UK took less than 1%. Now, companies like France's Total, at one point a major player in Iran's oil sector, their CEO said in Davos that they'd already stopped buying from Iran. So we turned to analysts asking how much of an impact does this really have? Seth Kleiman of Citigroup said not much, but that it is another small step toward taking Iranian barrels off an already tight market. And of course, symbolically, it's another salvo in the escalating tension between Iran and the West. Caroline?
And talking of that tension, Lara, the ultimate political risk is that we see a military conflict in the region. What's the latest on the outlook there?
Well, if you believe the wisdom of the crowds on Intrade, the latest bet is that there's a 51% chance of a U.S. or Israeli strike on Iran by the end of this year. But one of the most relevant voices, Israeli Defense Minister Ehud Barak, says that it's not yet imminent.
It's still a time for even more tight, ratcheted up sanctions against Iran, to include not just sanctions against the export of oil, but also sanctions against the central bank and the access to the financial clearing systems.
Now, Israel is seen as the tip of the spear on Iran. They see a nuclear-armed Iran as an existential threat. So the key questions become, will these sanctions work? Will talks with UN nuclear negotiators bear fruit? They start today in Tehran. And barring all of that, will Iran keep building up its nuclear facilities to the point where Israel or anyone else feels the need to strike to take them out? We'll know at least some of those answers as the next few months progress.